Brothers and sisters, let's pop it off. Let's do this stuff. So, spiritual gumbo, the last bull, and we're gonna jump off first. No, first we're gonna get into the reading. I want to get into the reading. We're gonna do a brief review of the last things that we're reading about, and it was the wild ass and the takeover, and that was really about the birth of Ishmael through Agar the Egyptian, his mother, and the fall of Sodom and Gomorrah. There are several important things that have to be mentioned. Number one, the Egyptians are brother and sister tribes, whatever you want to say, to the Canaanites, to the Cushites, and to the other main group of children, the Nubians, um, that are all throughout that area. So when he's told that he's a wild man, his hand shall be against every man against him, and he shall dwell in the presence of his brethren, it's saying that wherever Ishmaelites settled was in and around the area where people that he's biologically related to directly. Um, Again, if we're talking just genetics and not what people believe or some sort of, I'm not even going to say esoteric, but a more nuanced point of view, uh, I would still say the Hebrew people are more related to Chaldeans any day of the week than they are related to Egyptians. They're even more related to Chaldeans than they are Assyrians, even though the Assyrians are directly seeded from Abraham himself. The Chaldeans are the progenitor, that's the direct bloodline. So where you come from directly will always be closer to you. And people who are closer related to that are always going to be closer related to you. Um, which is why I say the term anti Semitic in practice is actually anti Semitic because it antiquates every other Semite family on the earth. If it's apples to apples and those people are truly the children of Abraham, then it makes it to where it's almost unbearable to hear them say that. And Ishmaelites, their father's a Semite, true Ishmaelites. So you can't, again, people are going to believe what they want to believe. But if it's already written here, you can only change. Even if you are in an alternative universe in your mind and you believe something completely different, you can only change so much of what's in the scripture because like you can't really change it. It's the way it is. Now let's just keep going. Now we're going to start at verse 30 of the Genesis, work our way to chapter 20 on the way out, and then we're just going to work our way all the way down. And I want to read most of Isaac's life today, if not all of it, or leading up to the point where Yaqub leaves off. I want to read up a lot of it because what he fought for. See, let me show you guys something real quick, just real quick. Share the screen. There we go. I'll share this real fast. All right. Let me see if I can. All right, there we go. We're going to look at these animals real quick, right? Because I want to get into this before we really start talking about it. So these are baby calves. I mean, excuse me, little sheep. These are sheeps, and I'm gonna go back on one, and it should have the lamb. There we go. And I'm gonna pull up a lamb. And I want people to understand that the lamb is a different creature. The sheep is different than the bull. It is lesser than. And I'm going to go to the bull picture again. I'm going to share this tab instead. And I'm going to so boom. Let's try this one more time. Oh. So we have a situation where these are completely different animals. And I know that we're talking about the white bull. We're not, this is just for visualization. I'm going to go back to between each page and let you get the idea of what I'm talking about. Let's pull up, blow up this picture right here of our little red friend. Okay, boom. That's the demeanor of a bull. Now we're going to look at a lamb again. And we've got to really appreciate the difference in these animals. And we can go back to, I'll go back forward again to the sheep. I'll even put in a ram. Blow him up real quick. So that way y'all can see, like, you know, even your largest rams are only so much bigger than a bull calf, let alone an actual bull, y'all. You know, like when they get just a little bit of size on them, a bull is the size. Look, this is a little baby. And in a couple months, it'll be the size of a sheep. Like, it's just, they're different genera. They similar animals. They have similar structure, but the snout on most bulls are bigger. The face, one second. There we go. Back to the bull page real quick. But the snout on the bulls are bigger, as you can see. Word. They just, their whole way, they got a way different way. They got a way different way of being. And I need to show this to people because they need to see these are different animals. So even if they're similar, understand what Abraham was and what we are now is not exactly the same. And you can talk about blood mixing, bro. It happened before America. This is why I don't like when people say that, because you guys are antiquating the scripture. When you do that, you take away the value of the scripture. That people were blood mixing with people that already looked like them. Right. These people look more like them than they did not, as far as their physical visage, their hue, the color of their skin. Right? As people like to say, melanin. So if their melanin was more similar than not to the people of the earth, and some of their physical features more similar to the people of the earth, how is it anyway, man? Let's just keep going. Verse 30. And Lot went up out of Segor. This is verse 30, chapter 19 of the Genesis. Let us go ahead and breeze on through some of this. Get off my soapbox. And when Lot went up out of Segor and dwelt in the mountain, he and his 2 daughters with him, he feared to dwell in Segor, and he dwelt in a cave. He and his 2 daughters with him. And the elder said to the younger, our father is old, and there is no one on the earth who shall come unto us as it is fit in all the earth. Knowing where they're from, knowing what just happened to Sodom and Gomorrah. You got to be from somewhere, y'all. Like, this is like when people try to be like, oh, I would have did this if I was them. No, you would not have. People have always been socially adept. You would not Screw over your whole village by poisoning the well, and then go to another village. And if somebody from your village happened to live and tell the tale, dude, your name is ruined. And again, how'd you live and they all died? Something don't look right. Again, you got to understand people are not stupid. They're not stupid. And they're saying right here that the daughters understood. The older daughter was telling the younger. Now, they didn't even go down and try. That's shameful. That was shameful. Right on? That was shameful that they didn't even try. Again, they already had husbands. Husbands didn't listen. Otherwise, it wouldn't matter. But the men that they were married to were men who lived in, that's right, Sodom. It's greatly believable that their husbands were dudes who was out there trying to press the angels, or was at least in the crowd amongst the people. Come on. That's like Paul could have very well been one of the Pharisees trying to tempt the Christ. If you should raise the child the way that they should, listen, if you should raise up a child the way that they should go, so when they are older, they do not depart, that is in contradiction, or it's at least diametrically opposed to when I was a child, I thought as a child, I did childish things. Right on? Right. But now that I'm a man, I put childish things away. Stop right there. If what you're shown as a child is what you were supposed to know to do your whole life, you don't ever abandon those things. Those things aren't childish. They were grown-up people things they were showing you as a child. Again, I can't rock with that sort of scripture. Because when I put it up against other scripture that's even similar in taste and value, how it comes out, it don't taste the same when you regurgitate it. The regurgitation is not as harsh as you trying to actually stomach that once you've put everything back in its rightful place. It's like, I can't eat that. I can't eat that. I can't even deal with that bread. That leaven is unworthy for consumption. Not only but by man, by beast, and anything that crawls, that flies in the sky, or that swims in the water in the earth beneath. That's a fact. Now, as we speak these things, let us keep going, but just understand, I'm giving context to my point. Come, verse 32, come, let us make our father drink wine, and let us sleep with him, and let us raise up seed from our father. So they made their father drink wine in that night, and the elder went in and lay with her father. And he knew not when he slept and when he rose up. So this dude is completely belligerently drunk. He doesn't even know what happened. He has no idea what happened. This is like you ever blacked out? You ever been drinking and blacked out and don't remember nothing? That's what they're doing to their father. So y'all think this, again, this sounds like date rape by the daughters. But ain't nobody going to call out women for their, anyway. Let's keep reading. Because remember, Lot wanted to go to the city, right? But then the city became uninhabitable, so he had to retreat to the mountain. This is a fact. Verse 34, and it came to pass on the morrow, meaning the day after, that the elder said to the younger, behold, I slept last night with our father. Let us make him drink wine in this night also, and do thou go in and sleep with him, and let us raise up seed of our father. So they made their father drink wine in that night also, and the younger went in and slept with her father, and he knew not when he slept, nor when he arose. Again, the Most High God is breaking this down to Moses on the mountain. I know people are having a hard time remembering in the beginning, he's talking to Moses. This whole time, he's been talking to Moses. Yes. So when this is happening, he's giving Moses understanding. This is preface to why the Moabites are not to come in until so many generations in. Right. This is why you're not supposed to marry them. He's like, the blood is too close. Breaking it down real quick. We're going to get to it when Abraham tells the king of Gerar, Abimelech, that he's married to Sarah, right? And that's his sister, through his father, not through his mother. He's distinguishing that we didn't come through the same womb. We have the same. This is an understanding of culture, and this is how we know arranged marriages took place. This is why they did, so you could control your bloodline and keep yourself from being genetically washed out. Now, for people who don't understand this, the invasion of the body snatchers is taking place all throughout the time from the separation of the people and the dividing of the earth, right on. And so all the way up until now, to this very day. I need y'all to understand this. This is the Bronze Age. When those things took place initially, that was the Stone Age. The Most High God skipped through so many different time periods and minutia and detail and nuance, just to get to these points that matter the most. As I'm reading this to you, I want y'all to understand this, that the Most High God is giving a message to a man on the mountain. As we read this like this, he was receiving the message. Perceive it. Now let us read. And the two daughters of Lot, verse 36, conceived by their father. And the elder bore a son, calling his name Moab, saying, he is of my father. Meaning, that's again, that's an abominable name. These are the same people who hate us to this day, by the way. Let's keep going. This is the father of the Moabites to this present day. And the younger also bore a son, called his name Ammon, saying, the son of my family, or the son of my father. This is crazy. This is the father of the Ammonites to this present day. And Abraham removed thence to the southern country, and dwelt between Kadesh and Sur, and sojourned in Gerar. And Abraham said concerning Sarah his wife, she is my sister. For he feared to say, she is my wife, lest at any time the men of the city should kill him for her sake. Now again, this is telling us, this is an indicator of how things went back then. This is why the Muslim dudes created that bullshit with putting the shroud over the face. Right? Because dudes was killing dudes over their female. They've been doing it. They do it to this day. And women go and sleep with the men that killed the man that was with them to this day. So what's different about right now than then? How was back then different from now? It doesn't. It's the same. But people don't want to hear that. People don't want to, if it means they got to be accountable, they ain't doing that. They're like, nah, nigga, nah. If they got to really go apples to apples again, we're not talking apples to potatoes or apples to rutabagas or apples to carrots. We're talking apples to apples. And you can pick different kinds. You can say, oh, this is a Granny Smith and this is a Pink Gala. You can compare those two kinds. I don't care. You can say the Pink Gala is slightly sweeter, has a more robust body to it. You can say that the Granny Smith has more snap and crunch, and it has a juicier presence. Whatever, right on. One is more, you know what I mean, made for apple pie. One is made, I guess, more for applesauce. Whatever you want to argue. But the thing is, when you look at the stuff that's up in here, you got to really look at it and tell yourself the truth. There's a lot going on right now. Like when he said that, people will just read past that. Your pastor will read past that while he's eyeballing your wife, trying to think of a way to get her. What? The deacon, the minister, the rabbi, right? The priest, who's supposed to be celibate, looking at somebody's wife. Come on, y'all, like, understand what I'm saying. This is not anything new. This is just telling us the extremes people went to. And think about how old she is. So a woman's age to, again, these niggas are the next level thirsty. We're dealing with thirst you've never even witnessed before. I don't even know if the dudes in the Middle East can get down like that, because I don't know if their religions allow them to. This predates all these kind of religions that people believe were around back then. Abraham did not practice a religion. He did not. I can't stress this enough. He did not practice worship outwardly of the Most High God in tabernacles and witness and speak about his greatness and minister that to the people. He lived his life, but he was a righteous man that the Most High God used as a vehicle for his cause. Let's keep reading. So Abimelech, king of Gerar, sent and took Sarah. And God came to Abimelech by night in sleep and said, Behold, thou diest for the woman whom thou hast taken, whereas she has lived with the husband. But Abimelech had not touched her, and said, Lord, wilt thou destroy an ignorantly sinning and just nation? Listen to this. It got real, y'all. If God came to you tonight and said, I've watched everything you've done and I'm unpleased, I bet you'd be trying to make right. I put that on everything. The real Father on high come through and pay you a visit. Send one of his angels on high, come down here to pay you. I guarantee you'd feel much differently. Let us keep reading. Behold, thou diest for a woman whom thou hast taken, whereas she had lived with the husband. But Abimelech had not touched her. And he said, Lord, wilt thou destroy an ignorantly sinning? So you're sinning without knowing it, and just nation. So these are actually, he's feeling like he's just, righteous. Said he not to me, she is my sister, and she not to me, he is my brother? With the pure heart and in righteousness of my hands have I done this. And God said to him, Sleep, yea. I knew that thou didst this with a pure heart, and I spared thee, so that thou shouldest not sin against me. Therefore, I suffered thee not to touch her. Stop right there. This is a spectral lesson for all you people who like to think you know something. When the Most High God is actively involved in a situation that he has vested interest in, he will do things to keep you from that. Understand the negotiations that just took place here. He said, did he not say she is my sister? Did she not say he is my brother? Now, I want y'all to understand. You can't think of one woman you met over the age of 40, 50, whatever, who was very attractive for her age. All right, then. That's the situation Abraham was in only thousands of years ago. You know, no cameras or social media, no 911 to call, stuff like that. Oh, there are no equal rights here, homie. The man had to speak several different languages, obviously, to be able to move around. That's how you're able to move around region to region. You either speak languages or you have people with you who speak languages. Right on? You know, what they call diplomacy now, but that's what they was doing back then with caravans and peoples. Now, clearly he comes from a nation of people that get down. So running up on them, even if you can, is still not the best move. Like he told Sarah right then, he's like, right, because he's pretty much saying like, if you say you're my wife, they're going to try to kill me and take everything that I have. Like, Sarah understands what people say. She understood the assignment, right? You know, I always laugh. I love when people say that crazy one. You know, people know what's going on. She gets it, bro. She gets that if she says something else, some crazy stuff could pop off. Now, mind the fact, the Christ has already told them that she's going to get pregnant at a certain time of the year that following year. Right on? Can you hear me? So imagine all the things you want to imagine, but Abraham is still just living his life. Not that he doesn't believe, but he's like, I'm gonna do my thing, right on, and we're gonna see wherever the chips land. We're gonna do that. Now, did they attack him? No, they're not attacking Abraham. No, this bull is a different kind of bull, and we'll get to that in a moment. Verse 7. But now return the man his wife, for he is a prophet. He's a what? A prophet, a seer. That's how he was able to see what was going to happen to his children, his seed in the foreign land. That's why the trans fell upon him. Anyway, man, let me stop, because don't nobody perceive if they don't perceive, if they don't have ears to let them hear, they ain't gonna get it. But I'm gonna say that again. That trance that Abraham fell into, that could only happen to a prophet. Let's keep going. And we're speaking about the last bull, so we can understand the level of greatness these individuals were. We're not talking, I know people like to think, well, what about somebody like Shaq or LeBron? I don't know what kind of animals they are. They could be easily just be lions and tigers, y'all. They could easily just be strangers within the people. Right. They could easily be hyenas. Hell, Shaq could be an elephant. LeBron could be a camel, for all I know. But there's no way of distinguishing what sort of animals these dudes are until you see their true primal nature. You'd have to see them at work when there are no rules to know what you're dealing with. Right. When there are no rules and you can just break somebody down, it's different. Nobody wants to run up on a nation of large horned sheep or ram, let alone bulls. No tigers or lions are trying to run down on a group of bulls. You've never seen it. They always attack one that they think they can get. They don't run down on the group. They know what time it is. I'm trying to tell y'all, they know what time it is. So the people, it's the same thing with the people. It doesn't matter. When somebody has you outnumbered, but you're just greater, when somebody is supposed to be the physical better or greater in this sense, right? They're the greater person as far as stature is concerned. But God has given you a spirit that's just unconquerable, right on? Can't be dominated. You know what I'm saying? Forever resistant to the forces of evil. You're not going to succumb to evil like somebody else will. The other people might give in and turn to being evil to save their life. A truly righteous person will just die and be like, you got me. Now, one day when somebody who's like me rises up and takes you down in a similar fashion, you have no words to speak. It takes it all from you. But let's just keep going. This is one of the ones where I wanted to speak. I got to speak about it because this is an important issue. The last bull. It's not something that I take lightly because this is the last of a certain kind of person in the bloodline, and there are no visual. Again, people say too many things. My young bulls, my young lions, blah 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 blah. Right? They got too many things for these dudes, so you can't. You see what I'm saying? They call people rats. They call people pigs. They call them whatever, right? And we assign these attributes to individuals that those attributes they don't fit them. Let us go. Verse 10. No, verse 9. No, verse 8. Excuse me. No, middle of verse 7. We'll just start from verse 7 again. But now return the man his wife, for he is a prophet, and shall pray for thee, and thou shalt live. But if thou restore her not, know that thou shalt die, and all thine. And Abimelech rose early in the morning, and called all his servants, and spoke all these words in their ears, and all the men feared exceedingly. I guess they had just nothing to fear about. And Abimelech called Abram and said to him, what is this that thou hast done to us? Have we sinned against thee, that thou hast brought upon me and my kingdom a great sin? Thou hast done me a deed which no one ought to do. Now, I'm thinking that this is an indicator between a righteous kingdom and an unrighteous kingdom. A really righteous king is like, bro, I don't want your woman. I don't want nothing you got. I don't want nothing. Right. Because I believe in the creator. Now, they might not worship the creator. Obviously, they don't, because he's paying visit to them. The idea is that if the Most High God had a nation at that point, that nation of people would have been known. That nation of people would have been able, like, they would be what we're talking about. We're not talking about them. We're talking about, I don't like to say that the Most High God rolled the dice on Abraham, but that's the best way I could say it. That he took a real life concerted gamble on this dude. Was like, I have to hedge the bets, so to speak. Because if I don't, his seed is going to not do right because they already have certain genetic predispositions to do things a certain way. So, again, it's not like Abraham is above and beyond reproach. The man has to go through whatever he's going through. But the thing is that he's a prophet. People need to understand that. And that Abraham is not, he didn't lie. We'll get to that right now. And Abraham said, verse 11, why I said, surely there is not worship of God in this place. And they will slay me because of my wife. For truly, verse 12, she is my sister by my father, but not by my mother. And she became my wife. Again, an indicator that his father was trying to control his bloodline. Right on? My children, my grandchildren will look like me. My babies will look like me. I don't have to worry about what they're going to look like because I'm going to set it up like that. Right. You can't do that. These days they got a lot of words for it now. Right? But how do you think you got here looking like that? You think you made yourself look like that? When they bred the slaves a certain way, real quick, when they were breeding slaves and they were forced breeding certain people with certain people, they created certain groups of kinds of black people. They were like, okay, we need, like people talk about this, but we need big, strong dudes. Okay. When they wouldn't get the results from getting two big people to mate together, they would get a taller woman and a regular sized man or a shorter sized man. They would get a taller man and a smaller woman. And they'd be like right. They were mixing and matching to see what the groups were that they could get the most desirable results from. Right. They used to think that the African's body and the Indian's mind was the perfect slave. That was the white man's idea of the ideal slave. Because the native already had natural understanding of the land, and the African had the physical vessel, the body in which you could exact your will on the land. That was their real life belief. Now, I'm speaking from a point of view of a man who's like, if there's freaks and natures running around, 30 feet, 40 feet tall, and you don't want your people with nothing to do with them, or you're keeping your bloodline from them type of people, you're going to choose who your children are with. Right. Let's say you want to leave a land that has people like that running around. And you're like, we got to go. You're going to do whatever you have to do to get up out of there. You're going to choose for you. Again, we're talking about survival, y'all. This isn't America. Again, when people read the Bible, they're putting today's world in the book. And they're doing themselves a straight up disservice, injustice. Okay? It's terrible what they do. Because now you're making it as if, again, Abraham had AT&T internet, unlimited data, right? With an iPhone. That's what they're trying to make it seem like. But he didn't. You see what I'm saying? This man is trying to navigate troubled waters. And this is an indicator of how bad times really were back then. So if you think the hood is bad now, right? If you think like, Shorty fine, but I'm not going back over there. It was 100 deep. I'm not dealing with all them killers and cutthroats. If she want to come see me, she going to come over here, period. And I'm picking her up the way. That's how some of these dudes operate and do it. Because they already know what time it is. They know what time it is. They know, yo, these niggas operate differently. It was no different back then. Everybody talking about, oh, they didn't have guns. Okay, check this out. If 100 people have bows and arrows pointed at you, what are you going to do? You're going to say, oh, I'm just going to dodge all those? I'm going to block them with a shield? Get real, my people. Like, you need to really get outside of that fake ass shit you believe in and start touching down on the real. Because otherwise, when it really does pop off, you will get wiped out. Because the divine ordinance takes no prisoners. Not one. That's why if you get in the water and you drown, it doesn't matter if you were a king or a peasant. If you get in here and you fuck around and can't swim, it's over, nigga. That's it. That's divine ordinance. Fire burns all. Right. There's certain things that divinity, the laws on the highest degree, that's how you keep order. These things have to take place. So if you do one thing, this thing must happen. They learned all this from the scripture. Now let us keep going. For truly she is my sister, verse 12, by my father, but not by my mother. And she became my wife. And when it came to pass, when God brought me forth out of the house of my father, that I said to her, this righteousness thou shalt perform to me in every place into which we may enter, say of me, he is my brother. You're going to do me a solid. You're not going to get me killed. This is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to live. This is how we're going to leave our father's house. Because it's not just his father, it's her father too. And Abimelech said to Abraham, verse 15, behold, my land is before thee. Dwell wheresoever it may please thee. And Sarah said to him, behold, I have given thy brother. And he said to Sarah, and to Sarah he said, behold, I have given thy brother 1,000 pieces of silver. Those shall be to thee for a price of thy countenance and to all the women with thee, and speak truth in all things. Listen, he said, I'm going to bless your brother. So that way, y'all feel good about everything. Everything is all good, right? You don't feel bad about nothing, but tell the truth about what happened and speak truth in all things. So when he's saying, tell the truth, don't tell people that's your brother. If that's really okay, say that's my brother, but also say he's my husband. So that way they understand. Right. This is a deep one, y'all. That was a deep lesson right there. And I know a lot of so-called pastors and whoever there don't want to really delve into it because it's too much for them. Right on? How many brothers and sisters do you think they made to have babies with during slavery? Fathers and daughters, mothers and sons. The wickedness abound wasn't just them raping on black men and women and the children and feeding them to gators and cutting open babies out of a black woman's stomach and beating us on the back and pouring hot ass oil on us or whatever other forms of wickedness and torture that they put us through. No, there was just a physical, abominable things that they could make you live with. Again, another reason for them to break up the family because they knew what they was trying to do. We want people who are related to be forced to sleep with with one another. We want y'all to have to do that. We're forcing that on you. Why do you think there's so many black people who look alike to this day? How do you think that took place? They bred certain people in certain regions with certain people. That's it. You can go right now to Alabama and find a whole bunch of dudes who look like me in certain spots. You can go to almost any state in the Midwest and find brothers who look like me all day, every day. It's just a fact. You can go on the East Coast in certain spots and find brothers who look like me all day, every day. There's people who look just like me all over the earth, though. Just like me. Some of them lighter, some of them darker, but got the similar nose, similar eyebrow. Everything is damn near the same. We're just different people. So I already know what time it is. I already know. This is why not being bred down. This is why I showed the picture of the bull versus the sheep versus the lamb, the ram. They're different animals. We don't look exactly how we used to look. I accept it. I'm one of the people who's like, I am so accepting of the situation. I get it and I understand. And I just hope that my brothers and my sisters can really perceive what I'm saying is there's so much more truth in it than there is false. And we're trying to breed a perfect person that's going to lead us out of dark times. And they may be a generation from now. But you've got to be strong enough and willing enough to persevere and endure these dark times that are going to be upon us to see that come into fruition. They may have already been born. But it's up to us to cultivate an environment where this individual can thrive and we can do with that which is right. Exactly. Because it's going to be a white sheep that has the baby that's the white bull one day. Out of nowhere. All the sheeps are producing bulls. Again. Is that a spiritual cleanliness? I don't know. Again, I'm saying it on a level of right now, we are not who we are supposed to be. We're not. That's why I'm always laughing. Like they did a number on us, y'all. They did a number on us. And the number that they did on us is so wicked and so trite and so evil that most of us don't want to see it. Can't see it. It's too hurtful. It's too hurtful. It's too painful to recognize the situation that we've been put in. But let us read, so that way we know exactly when this last bull, we're gonna pull him up, read about his life briefly, because it's a brief mentioning of him in here. But we're gonna read about him, and we're gonna do our thing. Verse 17. And Abraham prayed to God, and God healed Abimelech and his wife and his women servants, and they bore children, because the Lord had fast closed from without every womb in the house of Abimelech, because of Sarah, Abraham's wife. That's so deep. He blessed them with babies That's what everybody wants. They want little babies. They want, babies are just a delight to be around. They are a joy and a desire to be around. You just have to have something wrong with you to not love little babies. They do stuff that sometimes is it tests all your metal, but you know what? You need that as a person to grow and to become a better person. And this is how you have and practice and exercise the ultimate patience. This is how you learn. You have to learn how to parent. Um, Deprivation of that activity, some people do not come back from. So it's always good to be in a situation where you're at least familiar with people. But the Most High God allowed for these people's right. The women were having problems, not the men. Again, I'm not poo-pooing on the chicks. I'm just saying, in today's world, they've made so many devices that make it easier for women to get pregnant than there was back then, right? So when a woman says now that she's having a hard time getting pregnant, imagine how much harder it was 6, 7, 8,000 years ago to get pregnant. Right. 4 or 5,000 years ago to get pregnant. It was not right. And then to have a successful gestation. There is no hospitals to go to. Again, when people talk so bad about the ancestors, but don't even realize what they put up with and how they lived through not even the unthinkable, just, man, the incredible. They lived through the incredible and unimaginable. You can't imagine this stuff. This stuff is, you have to see it to believe it. For real, for real. Now here we are. And the Lord visited Sarah, verse 1 of chapter 21. And he said, and the Lord visited Sarah as he said. And the Lord did to Sarah as he spoke. And she conceived and bore to Abram a son in old age, at the set time, according as the Lord spoke to him. Now, whose story does that sound like other than the Christ? Right. See what I'm saying? Like, he made it to where she could get pregnant. Clearly, they have this activity that's going on that makes that possible. There's physical, tangible things have to happen for that to happen. We all understand that. Outside of that, though, this is how I know that the Christ is a real individual. And it's scary sometimes for people to realize that he was physically on the earth. Before whatever they want to say in the New Testimony, this is not the Most High God. This is the Christ. Verse 3, and Abram called the name of his son that was born to him, whom Sarah bore to him, Isaac, or Isaac. But we won't call him Isaac. And Abram circumcised Isaac on the 8th day, as God commanded him. So this is the first person of the first man to be initiated properly. Truly. Sidebar. Edomites practice 8-day circumcision too. Did y'all know that? There's people over there in the Middle East right now that practice 8-day circumcision, but they're not Jews. And they're black people with banana hook nose. Sometimes they got a nigga nose like me. Sometimes they got that thing, right? But this I believe is a trait of not all admixturing, but the response of admixturing, right on? Because there's a lot of groups on this earth that have a similar nose who are not Negroid, or at least not apparently Negroid, right on? Some of them might be mixed. I'm not saying that my nose is unnormal. I think it's a natural nose. I just think that the people were mixed back in the day. They weren't one solid thing. They couldn't have been. It's impossible. And so that's why now they're trying even harder to get people to mix their blood, because we're the only group that you have to break their blood down in order to change exactly what they look like. Black people have children all the time with people who are not black, and the babies come out looking. I mean, it's a black person that has thick, thick hair, not the Afro Holden hair, thick hair, black people hair, as we would call it, nigga hair. But the parent that bore the child had relatively straight hair. This is a thing. Black people see it all the time. Black women go get with a white man, and the white man has children with this black woman, and the children come out looking more black-like. Where you got to question, how white is this white dude for real? Is he the son of a Klay Thompson? You hear what I'm saying? Right. Because you got a bunch of them dudes running around here who got a biracial father who could pass for white. Right. But this guy's a quarter black. At least a quarter black. Again, you don't know who you're looking at. If Klay Thompson can pass for a white man, then how is Klay Thompson's half-white son gonna not pass for a white man? And I get it, he's with Meg Thee Stallion, so that's not, I get it, he's with Meg, I get it. But the point I'm making is still a bona fide point. There's a bunch of dudes who got a half-white father, half-white mother even, come on. And she doesn't look anything like a black person. At first real look, like you don't see anything, you don't pick up anything, their mannerisms don't give anything away, nothing. So when people say that there's still people who are trying to escape blackness by passing, first off, that never stopped. That was always a thing in this country. Come on. They don't want to hear it. So we got to break it down to them. The last bull is the last one of us that looks a very specific way. The last one. There is nobody else. There, right? Listen, you might think you have that child. You might think you're that person. But you're not a bull. Because everybody that I'm reading about in these books are sheep or something different. If there was going to be a bull, listen, if any of the people were bulls, it would be mentioned. Enoch didn't tell us that. Enoch told us that the people of the Most High God are sheep. Meaning, guess what? They're not who they used to be. I'm trying to tell y'all, you don't know who you're dealing with. You don't know. So don't act like when you see another black person, that's a Hebrew. They a Hebrew. That's a Hebrew right there. Because you sound stupid. You sound like somebody that's uninformed, uneducated. Were you there during the beginning of life? During the creation? Forget it. Well, did you get off the ark? Were you one of the sons? Huh? Is your ancient mother one of the women that got off the ark? No. So again, when I say something like a dude like Klay Thompson, right, producing white-looking children that get with a black woman, you don't understand how this really works. I'm not condoning it. I'm saying this is how it happens. This is how you have a black woman with somebody that is relatively not all the way white looking, but the babies come out looking hella white. Because that's right. They have no structure in their genomic. They have none of that in their genomic structure to withhold and upstand against your genetic differences. It's like when black people have an albino baby. The baby's only born albino for one reason. It's because this parent and this other parent both have a genomic uh, 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 characteristic, but this it's an allele that is so it's a recessive genetic. If it was dominant in them, it would show otherwise. It's a recessive genetic, but the recessivity of the genetic has proven itself to take course and change its shape and structure within the genomic code, meaning that this is normally a weak code in the genomic structure, but where it landed and where it's placed, this genomic structure is the strongest. I don't like talking about this kind of stuff to people because, again, they think they know something and then they don't because they're not doing me no favors. Can you dig that? Now let's read this. And Abraham was 100 years old when Isaac was born to him. And Sarah said, "The Lord has made laughter for me. For whosoever shall hear, rejoice with me. For whoever shall hear shall rejoice with me." And she said, "Who shall I say to Abraham that Sarah suckles a child? For I have borne a child in my old age." And the child, listen, when people do not understand, that's how glorious having a child is, having a baby that's healthy. But for a person that's tried and tried and tried and tried and tried, and again, Abraham had a condition, right? His condition was the end of his foreskin was super duper crusty, had to be clipped off so that way he could get some actual flow from there. Right. A lot of people back then didn't shower every day. So what you call hygiene, what you consider good hygiene, would be things that was only relegated to like, you know, the royals. America's a country full of people who live in basic regality. This apartment might not seem like much, but I have running water, heat, blah, 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 blah. Again, I have the ability to moisturize my skin with water on a daily basis at my will and my behest as long as it's available. That wasn't the case back then. So people were living with conditions that were, unless you live by the water, shit was different. That's the only way I can say it. Even to this day, it's like that. If you don't live by the water, your life is not the same. Right on? You can't not live by the water and it not be the same. Or it be the same. Listen, a person who lives in the desert is not going to live the same quality of life as a person who lives by the seaside. They're just not. One person might not have to worry about, rainstorms or typhoons or whatever, but they damn sure ain't got to worry about no fish either. You see what I'm saying? So there's things that come with that. And again, the ability to clean your body naturally with the source of water that's recycling itself and purifying itself to the deepest depths of the sea, right on, and renewing itself and rejuvenating itself. And why this is such an important thing is because, again, for Sarah to say that in her old age she suckles a child, that means that she always wanted a baby. That means that there's a lot of women right now to this day who've never had children who, that's right, they wanted a child, do not have one. That's why I was laughing. Again, you can say or feel or think whatever you want to about yourself. But the Most High God makes it clear that one person was one thing and another person was another thing. Let us read. Verse 11. No, verse 9. Chapter 80, at chapter 89. Book of Enoch. But that white bull, which had become a man, came out of the vessel. This is talking about Noah. And the three bulls with him. One of those bulls was white like that bull, meaning Noah, meaning Sem. And one of them was red as blood, meaning Japheth or Japheth. And one black, meaning Shem or Kam or Ham. Now I need y'all to understand this. This is where they get the idea that white, again, I gotta go into this stuff. The last white bull is a black person. Right. Do we need to pull up the chat GPT thing again? I'll stay away from that. Again, what color do you think these people were? No, Abraham could have very well been born looking different. But guess what though? He's called a white bull like his father's called a white bull. And his father's visage is not called into question, nor the men before him who are considered white bulls, or the people that we consider men. Again, in the eyes of the Most High God, they never became men. No way Noah became a man because of what he went through, because he saved an entire, not just nation, but he saved mankind. We'll get to when that sheep, not a ram, that sheep becomes a man. It's a blessing. See, I don't ever have to excel past my level. I don't ever have to get outside of the structure that I've created because I've done things that no other person will ever do. I already said things that people, one day when they go back, that's why YouTube's trying to get rid of my channel, because they don't want people to be able to look and to see the gravitas, the actual full-blown effort that I've made over the years and things that nobody said before I said it. So it would make you to wonder, where did that come from? But neither here nor there. Let us talk about this. If, and only if, and I'm only talking about it with us, if and only if this white bull is indeed Isaac, as we begin to read. Verse 11, we skip. And that white bull departed from them. Meaning, no way passed away. And they began to bring forth beasts of the field and birds, so that there arose different genera. Lions, tigers, wolves. Now, don't you think it's amazing that the first thing you hear about is a lion? You know, the people who are supposed to be with us, right? Lions, right? The Lion of Judah, again. Who's spread amongst the four corners of the earth? Obviously, some of the other tribes too, but the Jehudites in the greatest fashion. Who are the lions? The Chaldeans. Keep reading. Tigers, Assyrians, wolves, Egyptians, dogs, Philistines, hyenas, not sure. Going to keep reading and get up on that. Wild boars, Edomites, and other ones like that. Foxes, not sure. Squirrels, not sure. Swine, the pink-skinned Gentiles for sure. Falcons, vultures, kites, eagles, and ravens, I attribute to the hook nose, to those who have bird beak noses. You know what I'm talking about. Those things that came up out of the middle of the earth. Right. They came up out of the middle of the earth. They're after the fact. This is after the Tower of Confusion is being built. The earth is dispersed. And all the things come out of the middle of the earth. Right? This is deep. That's right. And they began to bite and among them was born a white bull. Verse 11. And they began to bite one another. But that white bull which was born, which was named Abraham, which was born amongst them, begat a wild ass, Ishmael, and a white bull with it, Isaac. And the wild asses multiplied, meaning what he told um, Ishmael that he would have 12 nations or 12 kingdoms. You know what I'm saying? Right. Come on now, y'all. I'm just trying to give you the game. People gonna say this is all fake. They made this up after the fact. Ha da 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 da. You weren't there. You don't know what they saw, and you don't know if they're lying to you or not. That's the part. And that white bull which was born begat a black boar and a white sheep. Now stop right there. Now we're gonna keep reading and breaking them down and doing our thing. Now niggas is gonna be mad because they're not gonna understand the Clay Thompson reference till, much later in their life. Maybe never. Maybe never get the fact that if a man that was black and a woman that was white made a dude who looked like him, and I could put a turban on that man's head right now and throw him in the Middle East and he looked just like one of them, where do you think those dudes came from? Be honest with yourselves for a second now. Don't lie to yourselves. Where do you think those dudes came from? What sort of genetic amalgamation do you think they are? Let us read. Verse 7. And she said, who shall say to Abraham that Sarah suckles a child? For I have borne a child in my old age. And the child grew and weaned. And Abraham made a great feast the day his son Isaac was weaned. And Sarah, having seen the son of Hagar the Egyptian, who was born to Abraham, sporting with Isaac her son, then she said to Abraham, cast out this bondwoman and her son. For the son of this bondwoman shall not inherit with my son, Isaac. But the word appeared very hard before Abraham concerning his son. But God said to Abraham, let it not be hard before thee concerning the child and concerning the bondwoman. And all things whatsoever Sarah shall say to thee, hear her voice, for Isaac shall thy seed be called. For in Isaac shall thy seed be called. For in Isaac shall thy seed be called. Now again, I know people like me, why you want to do that to us, man? Because so-called Ishmaelites, who claim to be the children of Ishmael, don't cry anti-Semitism, even though they should, because how could you not? Again, you can't be an Arab Ishmaelite. It's impossible. Ishmael's mother is Egyptian. So if you sleep with an Egyptian woman, guess what? Listen to what I'm saying. Those children are more, the Ishmaelites then are more Hamitic than whatever. If an Ishmaelite sleeps with a Semitic woman, right, the children are much more Semitic than Hamitic. So it all just depends on who people breed with. It's really actually that simple. Now again, Ishmael is going to be brought an Egyptian woman, but that's neither here nor there. So we know where most of his bloodline falls. But to say that Ishmael himself truly is not a Semite is still dishonorable. And the Egyptians are the only reason why the children of Israel grow into what they become. Let's go ahead and speak on it. All I'm saying right now to y'all is that if somebody who's got swine skin can help make or help put it on the sheep or the rams in any number, right? Or the boars can help put it on the sheep on any, because it all goes back. We can all put on whatever numbers. See what I'm saying? This is how you increase your enemies without knowing it, because you don't know their genetic actual background. How do you think the scripture says that you increased your enemies? This is how. It's painful for people to hear. Not for me, but for them. Let us read. And Abram rose up in the morning and took loaves and a skin of water and gave them to Agar. And he put the child on her shoulder and sent her away. And she, having departed, wandered in the wilderness near the well of the oath. And the water fell out of the skin. And she cast the child under a fir tree and departed and sat down opposite of him at a distance, as it were a bow shot. For she said, surely I cannot see the death of my child. And she sat opposite of him, and the child cried aloud and wept. And God heard the voice of the child from the place where he was. And an angel of God called Agar out of heaven and said to her, what is it, Agar? Fear not, for God has heard the voice of the child from the place where he is. He didn't hear Agar's voice, he heard the child's voice. Rise up and take the child and hold him in thy hand, for I will make him a great nation. And God opened her eyes, and she saw a well of springing water. And she went and filled the skin with water and gave the child drink. And God was with the child, and he grew and dwelt in the wilderness and became an archer. And he dwelt in the wilderness. And his mother took for him a wife out of Pharaoh of Egypt. Listen, he's a wild man whose hands are against all men and all men's hands are against him. Right, he ain't got no sense. He has no sense. None whatsoever. That's the part of Abraham that Esau inherits. Now, mind you, this is the elder brother of Esau. Now, the wild ass is an unclean animal, so it is proof that the Egyptians are unclean, whatever their spirit animal is, because otherwise he wouldn't be a wild ass. He'd be something else that was a clean animal, i.e., I don't know, a ram or even a boar. Even as bad as people think boars are, a boar is a clean animal to eat. Again, it's not an animal that you can domesticate. Real boars cannot be domesticated. Those are hogs. A boar cannot be domesticated. Not like you can a swine. A swine is a pink dog with a snout. Anyway, some swines obviously have fur and all that good stuff, but when you shave them down, they all look the same. Now, let us do this. Verse 22, and it came to pass that Abimelech spoke, and Okazoth, his friend, and Phicol, the chief captain of his host, to Abraham, saying, God is with thee in all things whatsoever thou mayest do. Now therefore, swear to me by God that thou wilt not injure me, nor my seed, nor my name, but according to the righteousness which I have performed with thee, thou shalt deal with me, and with the land thou hast sojourned. And Abraham said, I swear. And Abraham reproved Abimelech because the wells of water which the servants of Abimelech took away. Now listen, this is where the troubles start for the last bull. Now I wanted to talk with it. We started to get to the juicy part. Oh yeah. And Abraham said, I swear. And Abraham reproved Abimelech because of the wells of water which the servants of Abimelech took away. And Abimelech said to him, I know not who has done this thing to thee, neither didst thou tell it to me, neither heard I it, but only today. So he's saying, look, bro, I have no idea. Now, whether the nigga is lying or not, doesn't matter. But Abraham was like, I'm not going to do nothing to y'all. I ain't going to mess with y'all. Right on? And then after Abraham swore it, he then said, yo, hey, man, tell your servants to stop messing with the wells, man. Right on? They done bullied up and boss hog for a couple of them. Now, mind you, Abraham didn't have to fight for any of this. Okay? This is deep. And people want to know, how was a white bull born from his loins from Sarah? Clearly because they were born of the same father, jackasses. Verse 27. And Abraham took sheep and calves and gave them to Abimelech, and both made a covenant. And Abraham set 7 ewe lambs by themselves, 7 female lambs. And Abimelech said to Abraham, what are these 7 ewe lambs, which thou hast set alone? And Abraham said, thou shalt receive the 7 ewe lambs of me, that they may be as for me as a witness that I dug this well. Therefore he named the name of that place the well of oath, for there they both swore, and they made a covenant at the well of the oath. And there rose up Abimelech, Okazath, his friend, and Phicol, the commander of chief in his army, and they returned to the land of the Philistines. Now, these y'all understand. When you roll up with your commander in chief, you roll up with your right hand man, right? Where you roll up with your best friend and your general. It's serious. But you don't roll up on anybody like that. Abraham is treated as a king back then. Again, the level of honor his son is shown is nowhere close to this. Right on? Like, Abraham was something special. And Abraham, verse 33, and Abraham planted a field at the well of oath and called there on the name of the Lord, the everlasting God. And Abraham sojourned in the land of the Philistine many days. Chapter 22, verse 1. And it came to pass after these things that God tempted Abraham and said to him, Abraham, Abraham. He said, lo, I am here. And he said, take thy son, the beloved one, whom thou hast loved, Isaac, and go into the highland and offer him there for a whole burnt offering on one of the mountains which I will tell of thee, which I will tell thee of. And Abraham rose up in the morning and saddled his ass and took with him 2 servants and Isaac his son. And having split wood for a whole burnt offering, he arose and departed and came to the place of which God spoke to him on the 3rd day. This is a 3-day journey in, y'all. This ain't just, he got to get far away from the crib. He can't let nobody see what he about to be doing, right? What he's, boy. And Abraham said to his servants, whoa. And Abraham having lifted up his eyes, saw the place afar. And Abraham said to his servants, sit ye here with the ass, and I and the lad will proceed thus far. And having worshipped, we will return to you. And Abraham took the wood of the whole burnt offering, and laid it upon Isaac his son. And he took into his hands both the fire and the knife, and the two went together. He's saying that Abraham is carrying the fire and the knife, right on. He's got the knife on one hand, the wood in the other. Right on. So he's making his son carry the shit. This is cold blooded. This nigga, yeah. Abraham something else. Well, he's an old man by now though, too, right? So this is also understanding his physical attributes. People are like, he's just hearing voices. This nigga's hearing voices, right? I love the Bible for this point because people try to say that they heard God talk to them, but it's like, when God speaks, he speaks a certain way. I don't know how else to say it. He doesn't just tell you to do. Anyway, we'll get to the end of this story in a second. But God does not just tell you to just go kill people. This is actually a precedent. Let's go ahead and read it. And Isaac said to Abraham, his father, Father. And he said, What is it, son? And he said, Behold the fire and the wood. Where is the sheep for a whole burnt offering? And Abraham said, God will provide himself a sheep for the whole burnt offering, my son. And both having gone together, came up to the place which God spoke to him. And Abraham built there the altar and laid the wood upon it. And having bound the feet of Isaac's son together, he laid them on the altar upon the wood. Now, your children are the only people that trust you so much. They really do trust you. Like your babies trust you with all their everything. So when he's doing this, Isaac is believing him. He has no idea. I'm sure when he got old, he might have reviewed it in his life. But this is the kind of belief that people have. Like, you guys gotta understand, this ain't no shaman, this ain't no omen, this ain't no augury, this ain't none of that. This is spectra. Again, things that are taking place outside of the dimension and the valuation of which you can see that still exist. They can call it microscopic, they can call it ultraviolet, they can call it gamma radiation. I do not care. It is a real thing, and spectra happens every day. And I don't need nobody to validate, verify, or vindicate me, because they can't do a thing for me. So when I say what I'm saying it on the facts and the principles. Just like, real quick, Abimelech and Abraham had 7 lambs that were witnesses. You don't think the lambs, again, for people who think that animals don't know nothing, why would they be a witness then? Okay, obviously, we want somebody to see this. And God is, again, telling who this? Moses. Because everybody thinks they know everything. Now let's go ahead and read. Because he's got Isaac's, feet bound. And Abraham stretched forth his hand, verse 10 of chapter 22, to take the knife to slay his son. And an angel of the Lord called him out of heaven and said, Abraham, Abraham. And he said, Behold, I am here. And he said, Lay not thy hand upon the child, neither do anything to him. For now I know that thou fearest God, and for my sake thou hast not spared thy beloved son. And Abraham lifted up his eyes and beheld, lo, a ram caught by his horns in a plant of Sabbath. And Abraham went and took the ram and offered him for a whole burnt offering in the place of Isaac his son. Now again, for those who don't believe that Abraham is a prophet, did he not tell his son that the Most High God would provide his sheep? A ram is a variant of a sheep. Sometimes an admixture of certain animals. Goat, large horn goat, and a sheep, but typically you don't have to have a goat in the mixture to have a ram. Rams are produced through certain breeds of sheep naturally. It just it just happened. Rams are not Rams are not wild per se as far as like a boar or an ass, but to cattle with rams, you have to have a lot of space. You just have to have a crap ton of open space where they can go out and kind of do their thing. And that's how he's able to catch this ram right now. But either way, people don't understand because they don't get it, so it doesn't matter because they're thinking that this is a bull again. Though a white bull is ready to offer up the calf, so to speak. The Most High God sends a ram in the place of the calf. You gotta appreciate what you're reading. You can't just read it and be like, "Oh, I got it." There's a lot going on, and it's not just being able to read the different books and appreciate them. It's being able to appreciate the fact that those who do the most work for the people later on are not the sheeps, but the rams. Call it irony, call it whatever, but that is a blessing. Some of the people who do some of the most harm to the people are rams. Ironic or not. Is a ram a small bull? Maybe not in the sense of how his horns are shaped, but in the mentality that it has, most most definitely. Most definitely. Most definitely. A little bull who takes way less crap than the bull does. Can't afford to. People don't try bulls like they try rams. The lions think that the ram is good. He's easy dinner. There's three of us, only one of him. The ram is smart enough not to let them do certain things. I won't let y'all circle me. Right on. I'm gonna take off running, fight back when I need to, get away when I need to, get close to other big animals, see how they feel. Oh, it's just me by myself. Okay, I gotta turn up. This is why they hunt small. This is why lions hunt buffaloes and not aggressive animals that have horns. There's a reason for that. You don't see bulls in Africa. If you did, the lion population would be greatly stunted. Because bulls are not like buffaloes. I mean, they're not like oxens. They're not like yaks. They're completely different. They are different animals with a different temperament. And something that can literally gore an animal is not to be taken lightly. At all. You're talking about poking holes in something. Nope. Now let's go ahead and keep reading. And Abraham called the name of that place, the Lord hath seen, verse 14, that they might say to today, and the mount of the Lord, and the mount the Lord was seen. An angel of the Lord called Abraham the second time out of heaven, saying, I have sworn by myself, says the Lord, because thou hast done this thing. And it's a second angel, a different angel now. It's a whole other angel. I have sworn by myself, says the Lord, because thou hast done this thing, on my account hast not spared thy beloved son. Surely blessing I will bless thee, and multiplying I will multiply thy seed as the stars of heaven, and as the sand in which the shore of the sea, and thy seed shall inherit the cities of their enemies. Interesting. And in thy seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed, because thou hast hearkened to my voice. And Abraham remembered to his servants, returned to his servants. And they arose and went together to the well of oath. And Abraham dwelt at the well of oath. And it came to pass after these things that it was reported to Abram, saying, Behold, Milcah herself too has borne sons to Nachor thy brother. Uz, thy firstborn, the firstborn, and Bo, his brother. I always thought it was Boz. It might be Boz. And Camuel, the father of the Syrians, and Kazad, the father, and Kazad, and Azav, and Phaldez, and Jeldath, and Bathuel. And Bathuel begot Rebekah. There we go. These are 8 sons which Milcah bore to Nachor, the brother of Abram. And his concubine, whose name was Rima, she also bore Tabek, and Tam, and Telkos, and Mocha. And the life of Sarah was 120 years, 27 years. And Sarah died in the city of Arbach, which is in the valley. This is Hebron, in the land of Canaan. So Abram is 137, right? If Isaac is born when she's 90, right? He's 37. We're just going to do the quick math, so that way don't nobody get confused. And Sarah died in the city of Arbach, which is in the valley. This is Hebron, in the land of Canaan. And Abram came to lament for Sarah and to mourn. And Abram stood up before his dead. And Abram spoke to the sons of Ket, saying, I am a sojourner and a stranger among you. Give me therefore possession of a burying place among you, and I will bury my dead away from me. And the sons of Ket answered to Abram, saying, Not so, sir, but hear us. Thou art in the midst of us a king from God. Bury thy dead in our choice sepulchres, for not one of us will by any means withhold his sepulchre from thee, so that thou shouldest not bury thy dead there. And Abram rose up and did obeisance to the people of the land, to the sons of Ket. And Abram spoke to them, saying, If ye have it in your mind that I should bury my dead out of my sight, hearken to me, and speak for me to Ephron, the son of Sar, and let him give me the double cave which he has, which is in part of his field. Let him give it to me for the money it is worth for possession of a burying place among you. Now Ephron was sitting in the midst of the children of Ket, and Ephron the Kittite answered Abram and spoke in the hearing of the sons of Ket. In the hearing, this is like an adjudication, y'all. And of all who entered the city, saying, Attend to me, my Lord, and hear me. I will give thee the field and the cave which is in it. I have given it thee before all my countrymen. Bury thy dead. And Abram did obeisance before the people of the land. And he said in the ears of Ephron before the people of the land, Since thou art on my side, hear me. Take the price of the field from me, and I will bury my dead there. But Ephron answered Abram, saying, Nay, my Lord, I have heard indeed, the land is worth 400 silver didrachms. But what can this be between me and thee? Nay, do thou bury thy dead. And Abram hearkened to Ephron, and Abram rendered to Ephron the money which he mentioned in the ears of the sons of Ket, 400 didrachms of silver approved with merchants. Stop right there. Got to break all this down. Homeboy Ket tried to deny the money. He didn't want the money. He didn't want the 400. Abraham paid him 400 anyway. Because he asked homeboy, well, what's the land? Listen, the plot, they were going to give him the whole land, just for the cave, and let him get the cave for a burial plot, and let him have the land. Let him have all the land and the cave just for the burial plot. He was like, no, what's the land worth? And bro was like 400 pieces of silver, right? Now y'all got to recognize. Now I'm not saying that Abraham been holding on to silver this whole time, but he got 1,000 pieces of silver, or Sarah did, or whatever you want to say. They got 1,000 pieces of silver from Abimelech, right? Just 2 generations ago. If he's sitting on any of that, and again, they did what? They approved it with the merchants. So they went, tested the silver, make sure it wasn't fake. You guys got to understand, regular stuff that people do today, they did back then. They had to, it's all right. I know this is a book of make-believe, nonsense, allegory to people. I get it. But I'm trying to get to the points to where we can finally back up off, because here we are. Here we are. Uh-oh. I'm going to have to hold back. Yeah. I'm going to have to hold back. I forgot. We got to get to the whole Syrian thing. I'm about to cut it short right here in a second. I'm about to be done. We're going to read the rest of this, and then we'll be done. Matter of fact, I don't want to read it anymore. I want to stress Isaac's life. He is the last bull. This is the last of them. He's the last of a certain kind. I was going to get all the way into this. I may do too much. If I do that, I'll just come back right to it tomorrow. Like literally, I'll just come right back tomorrow. And so I'll do a part 2 to this tomorrow. Yeah. Because I don't want to get too much more further, actually, because I'm seeing what I'm going to have to read, and I'm realizing like, okay, I want to give preface to a few different things. I don't want to just, yeah, yeah, because there's a certain way I have to do this. There's a certain way I have to do this, because when I start to read this, it's gonna taper into Jacob's life. Right on. It's gonna taper into both the son's life, and I'm gonna say this. The situation I forgot was a little more nuanced. I don't say forgot. I just didn't put it in my mind. We got to talk about Abimelech again. I believe the same Abimelech that was alive during the days of Abraham. Right on. Who I believe was a young king at the time. Right. And now is an older king in the days of Isaac. We're gonna have to just break. Anyway, I cannot wait to break this. I know people like to just think that they be knowing everything about the Bible. It's like, bro, I don't know nothing about the Bible. I know nothing about nothing. All I know is about what I've seen in life, and I'm reading this book, and I'm comparing what I've seen in my real life to certain things, what I've researched, what I've searched out. That's it. With that being said, let me not hold you for another moment more. Let us end on this note. And Abraham was old and advanced in age. Verse 1, chapter 24. I mean, chapter, yeah, that's right, chapter 24. And the Lord blessed Abraham in all things. we'll stop right there. We'll stop right there for the last bowl. We'll be back with this tomorrow. For sure, unless the good Lord says otherwise. May tomorrow be better than today, and may your next week surely surpass your last. I salute you. I salute you again. I salute you once more. Spiritual Gumbo, out.